Hey everyone, welcome back on East Asia Stories Together for your weekly review of East Asian news. This week, most of South Korean news were related to national security and relations with North Korea. Let's dive into it. The leaders of South Korea, Japan, and the United States issued a joint statement on Sunday marking the anniversary of their summit at Camp David and reaffirming their commitment to addressing regional challenges together. South Korea's presidential office said the principles set at the summit continued to guide trilateral cooperation. The statement emphasized their united approach to security threats and regional provocations. On August 18th last year, US President Joe Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and South Korean President Yoon agreed to deepen military and economic ties, particularly in response to China's growing power and North Korea's threat. While plans for another meeting are being discussed, no date has been set. The senior South Korean official noted that the cooperation framework established at Camp David will endure even after the Korean leaders leave office. The next day, South Korea and the US began their annual joint military drills. On Monday, President Yoon urged strong readiness against North Korea's gray zone provocations and hybrid warfare as South Korea and the US began their annual joint exercise Ulchi Freedom Shield. Yoon highlighted the need to counter North Korea's evolving threats, including psychological warfare and cyber attacks, and called for increased resilience against the spread of disinformation and secret anti-state activities. He warned that North Korea could create instability through violence and propaganda, emphasizing the importance of protecting key infrastructure and maintaining public resolve. The Ulchi Freedom Shield, running until August 29th, includes computer-simulated war games and civil defense drills. Though Seoul and Washington insist the drills are defensive, North Korea has condemned them as the most offensive and provocative war drills for aggression. On Tuesday, a very interesting article published by Nikkei Asia looked at the strategic positions and potential consequences of the US elections on security issues in North Korea and South Korea. As the US presidential election nears, both South Korea and North Korea are preparing for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump as the next US leader. South Korea and US forces began joint military exercises with more drills added compared to 2023. South Korean President Yoon has worked with US President Joe Biden to further bolster the alliance, an approach he is expected to maintain if Harris wins in November. Meanwhile, North Korea has strengthened military ties with Russia, signing a mutual defense agreement in June. Pyongyang opposes the South Korea-US alliance, calls the exercises provocative, and expected to deepen relations with Russia and other US rivals, especially if Harris wins the US election. Meanwhile, a North Korean soldier fled to the south. We covered the news on Wednesday. A North Korean soldier defected to South Korea early Tuesday, crossing the demilitarized zone along the eastern border. South Korean military detected and assisted him as he walked through a path near the Donghae Road, despite North Korea's mines and barriers. As a side note, the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, is a border barrier that divides the peninsula roughly in half. It was established to serve as a buffer zone between North Korea and South Korea after the Korean War. The Joint Chief of Staff confirmed the defection and are investigating. No unusual North Korean military activity has been reported. The defection came just 12 days after North Korean resident defected to the south by crossing the neutral zone of the Han River estuary, located west of the inter-Korean land border. South Korea's anti-Pyongyang broadcast featuring K-pop and news about defectors may have influenced the soldiers' decision. Defections continue due to food shortages and political oppression in the north, with 105 defectors arriving in South Korea in the first half of the year. During an inspection of joint US-South Korea military exercises on Wednesday, President Yoon warned North Korea that the North Korean regime would collapse if it invaded South Korea. Speaking at the Ground Operations Command in Yongin, Yoon emphasized that North Korea is an unpredictable threat and stressed the need for strong military readiness to prevent miscalculations. He highlighted the importance of the Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise in strengthening defense against growing North Korean threats. Yoon also called for strong firepower capabilities against the North long-range artillery and missiles. On Thursday, South Korea urged North Korea to respond to President Yoon Suk-yeol's recent call for freedom-based unification. Unification Minister Kim Young-ho pressed Pyongyang to engage in working-level talks as part of a proposed new dialogue channel, outlined in President Yoon's Liberation Day speech on August 15. Yoon emphasized peaceful unification through changing the hearts and minds of North Koreans rather than force. However, North Korea has remained silent. Kim noted that North Korea earlier abandoned peaceful unification, prompting South Korea to focus on strategies that don't rely on Pyongyang's cooperation. Yoon's approach emphasizes values and freedom, which analysts say could resonate with North Koreans more than past strategies. However, domestic critics question the feasibility of Yoon's vision, accusing him of lacking credible plans to restore peace, and Yoon's hardline stance may undermine sincere dialogue efforts. Thank you for watching this video. Stay updated on all these topics and more with our daily news roundup on Instagram. It's an easy and effective way to keep up with the news. Check all the links in the description. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like our content. It really helps us out. See you soon!